Good morning, or whatever it is, wherever you are. So I started working on building out some infrastructure to support hooking up to the Twitch chat WebSockets. And then I remembered that Elm 19 doesn't have a WebSockets library yet. So we could go redo the entire thing in 0.18, which you'd eventually have to convert back. I have seen someone else who's kind of built out their own WebSocket module, but I actually thought it might be an interesting project to kind of peek under the hood and try to figure it out for ourselves. So I've got a couple of projects that have been stalled on this precise thing. A testing library, it's like if I either use the local version or I could try switching over to Elm Test, which is actually where this would be a test case. And this would be one place where we could test out WebSocket, although there's like a lot of other stuff to do there. And then you'd have to develop the WebSocket library to even see if the rest of it worked. So I'd kind of like to evolve that within something that's actually working, otherwise. But these are things that we could attend to. There are also places we can look for sort of how we might interface with Elm, or with WebSockets. And also what we might be able to use for a test to test against, because given that things might be badly broken at first, maybe I shouldn't be doing that against Twitch's chat servers. So donation config was against my server, which I have to remember. I don't think typically generates events on its own. What was involved in, not script mic check. What was involved in connecting to OBS WebSocket? So we've actually had a fair bit of stuff here. So there's the authentication, which I think I had to keep pasting the password in unless I added local storage for it. I could probably turn that off just for testing purposes. And we've got responses to actually parse them out. Although for early scale stuff, I wouldn't necessarily need all of this parsing. So we've got messages, responses. Okay. So the response or event. And request. Mic check. So what we do with WebSocket is we... Oh, OBS WebSocket. Yes, WebSocket version. WebSocket.send. So we got OBS send. Encode OBS address based on our config stuff. Authenticate. Get auth required. Get the mute, attempt to connect. Request to get version. Get current scene, get scene list, get special sources, get mute. Okay, so I think that OBS, since I happen to be streaming, will actually send you a message every couple of seconds. So if I turn off authentication for simplicity, I might be able to actually get into that pretty easily. And without having to fire it up. Well, actually, you know what? This is an OED 18 app, which means it will probably actually work from just a straight up web page. Except it immediately connected, but you know. And we haven't configured anything yet. Well, that would be all nothing, which is okay. I think any will invert that. Or we could log out. All right, so localhost 44444. That's what we connect to. We think that there's just going to be some data there. So that's just a WebSocket server that's running, and we can probably use as a test case. And I know I have to dig that out. I know on the other end of, well, all of that stuff is buried somewhere else. Because I know the other side of the donation server was some stuff that did actual JavaScript connections. So donation data, and this does very, very lightweight connections. We're probably going to need to do a lot, look up some reference and get some much more fancy pants stuff to do this properly. But we've got a basic WebSocket harness here that we can sort of start with. Now, I don't know if my API will end up looking anything like the eventual Elm API. But when there's an Elm API, it's probably going to get called WebSocket, and I don't think there's any way to disambiguate names in Elm. And they have the plain names policy. So you can't really do multiple versions, multiple authors of the same package. So I might want to call it somewhere else to facilitate a possible eventual switchover. So we're going to have source. Actually, where is the... That's WebSockets. OBS mic check. They did call it WebSocket. Support module, port socket, exposing. Well, we don't know quite what. We know what we used in the WebSocket was send and listen. And we're only really concerned with listen at the current moment, actually. Now, there might be some data types involved in doing that as well. But that gives us a basic means. So initially, this would be a port listen. which they took a string and a tagger. Well, actually, a port. Since this is an older project, doesn't have my newer structure for doing port stuff. It's a little bit of a depreciated project. Actually, since this is here, no source. Since I was looking at it, we've got local storage, file input. So a port that is a command save. No. Well, it is a This may need a different kind of interface than what WebSockets could do because WebSockets was using native code. So save was a command. Listen is a command. It's of type message, but we can't actually do any messages with user level commands. So it's really a little bit pointless at the user level. What we're going to get back is a something to message. Well, the thing we're going to have to subscribe to if we're listening and could I have a function which both sent a command to connect and subscribed? Well, if I did, it would have to have multiple return values, which I think would be very awkward. So no, we can't do that. A port level interface is going to be connect to address command message. And receive responses from that address. Now, the messages themselves will be strings. To message. And we do not know. I do have to send because I have to do the login on Twitch end. We can start here to get stuff from OBS WebSockets. That's not the interface we're eventually going to want, but it could do some basic checking of function. So, at a WebSocket level, we get opened, closed, message, and there's probably and an on error at least. And then there's a question of, do I handle those in JavaScript and send higher level stuff to Elm, or do I handle it in Elm? Open, close. I mean, I do want to track. One thing I would eventually like out of this is to track closes. Message and error. Since these are currently mapped to low-level messages, they should probably be matching names. All right, so message string makes sense. Message gets an event. That's event data. So I don't know if we want to actually pass on the event and decode it, or just pass on the data. Error. I don't know what that is. It's just going to be a value for now. I mean, I guess initially we would just do that. Close. Open and close, I don't know if we get data. That is up to some web service docs, I guess. Initially, it would be that. Because So does Elm ports... Yeah, so this was my basic... Well, see, that was a private window, so we had this stuff. Actually, the Elm guide probably has some port stuff. That might tell us what's required of a signature. Outgoing messages, incoming messages. Yeah, it probably has to be this format so it can turn whatever it gets into a sub of that. But we do have to call the send. So I don't know if you can just pass like message. So I don't think this is the structure we'll end up with, but it's a structure we can start with. And then we need to match that with JavaScript. And this I also would like to be easiest to look up on the other end. Not that one. No, you were a little different. Oh, I must have been source. Okay, so local storage, we subscribe to the connects. App.ports. Ooh, that's a very generic name, isn't it? And I probably will eventually wrap these with nicer methods. Once we're on a module, names should be fine. Or rather, a generic name like this would be fine. But these are not package scoped. So we want to make sure we don't have collisions in the future. So WebSocket connect dot subscribe is a function of, right now it's just an address. And app.ports.web. Oh. So actually we would only hook these up. How does that work? We hook these up to those. Well, but if we ever do multiple connections, we're going to know which one this is referring to. So if it's pure Elm, we're handling this. Probably we would have to pass the address back. If I did handle it in Elm, I could pass back a value that was the WebSocket to open. And I would need to handle pass pairs to the others. Let's ignore that for the moment. WebSocket on open dot send. No, because it's not on open. This is just calling this. So this is where we look up our JavaScript stuff. Subscriptions. So we had a function to do this before. Which might actually be something we want to work our way into here. Address. And then I'm going to go ahead and develop these as functions. With the expectation that I might be doing a little bit of management in JavaScript later on. Oh, actually, where did I... Oh, I don't have that project locally, but I did do some... A little WebSocket intermediary server where I did some Elm stuff on it. So, this is going to be... Here... Here... that was pre-parsing the data... All right, so on error, we don't really know because I have not seen an error what that looks like. But why is there sending a value? So let's assume we have at least an error. Socket opened, we have nothing right now. Socket closed, we have nothing right now. I guess we could send the WebSocket. Oh, no, I actually did need this indented because... And this is the callback. Oh, WS equals new WebSocket. So that's just going to be in this scope right now. And I had this ordered differently here. Maybe this was some sample code I copied. On open. On error. On close. And this is really, like I said, Elm doesn't have to subscribe to all of these. Send event. And then we'll need some method of actual connection tracking. So I might want to handle these. Well, actually, I know that there were people who were saying your port interfaces should be a single port that does more of a messaging interface. You'd still have to be sending, to do a complex value, you'd have to be doing a value and then decoding it. Well, no, because you can do simple values. So you could actually do like tag actual data. So that would look more like... it probably wouldn't be connect, but... So the WebSocket receive would get... where did I do... One of my interfaces did... So this does that a little bit. Loaded... no. Local storage. Yeah, so these are local storage loaded. Oh, this does the decode and the tagger, but it's still a sub message. And then the actual port is just a string. And then we do a bunch of stuff to that. So what we would expose... So we would receive... So let's say maybe string. You're applying a decoder and then a tagger to that singular value. So receive would be what? It would be a WebSocket, which is kind of an opaque object. It would be an event type. And it would be any possible data from that. Unless it was just a value. And then we decoded data if data was appropriate. Because that would mean we would have to supply a dummy value for things that had no value. All right, I'm overthinking this. Let's make sure this much works. So stream. For now, this is a private module. Except you have to, well, for testing purposes, just give me everything. And the subscriptions, we want port socket. And this is where actually having a single point of message would be useful. Maybe I don't worry about what I'm sending right now. And then index. Send WebSockets. There's something there. Nope. WebSocket receive. And right now it is just going to be some dummy thing. Which is just going to take a value and then update. Update of value is oh, it's just going to be value. It's not going to be what message came back. WebSocket receive in and you kindly indent yourself. All right, now I need to get all of the compiler set up since we're using our current application for this. And I don't have this set up as my current thing. All right, I don't know if it's Elm 19 or Elm application, but it's picky about having an actual server. And I'm really wondering if I should just go back to Elm browser.element and just use a couple of ports. Bin monitor. He'll yell at me a lot. Yes, we actually have to bring in value. JSON dot, well, we're most likely to decode here. It's pretty much the same between the two of them. And then you need a value. And we may have not been, okay, we were directly dealing with JSON. Are we still directly dealing with JSON? I'm not sure we're directly dealing with JSON, but maybe. Some credits. Import JSON.decode. This is the only kind of value I'm really gonna. Oops, update. Okay, that is that. Now we're not going to connect to anything unless we call that. So that would be init. And we're just going to use the convenient OBS server. So port socket.websocket connect to WS localhost and see what we broke in the actual thing. app.ports.websocket connect subscribe is subscribe. Indeed it is not. Can't establish connection. WebSocket error. app.ports.websocket. Where did I... Oh, Oops. But that was an error. Is there like a message? Event prototype? How about... WebSocket. Oh, I did just typo that. Oh, I didn't wait for that to compile. I need to get this up. App.ports.websocket is man. Where did I leave it now? Message. Okay, WebSocket. Okay, closed. Revive. I think that is my update. Yeah. Target data. So yeah, that is all of the status messages. So we've gotten at least to the point where we can Elm will not print out arbitrary JavaScript values. So if we wanted to be doing any debugging on this, we do have to well, probably we only want data for the most part. There's not currently original target, source element target, WebSocket URL. Maybe timestamp? But what do we want out of this interface? Well, we're going to have to send better information to get a decent interface around this. Probably messages. We're going to want to only do data. Now, ideally, and this is actually where the basic WebSocket library is kind of handy. What it does is it gives you a message and an address, and then, or a mapper, and then those are bound together. But those were bound together by magic back in the WebSocket library that was somehow keeping state about that connection outside of the application. This is just saying any old socket event, give it here. But if it's not any old socket event, we either have to do state in here at this layer. And I think what I did in the case where I had I was using WebSocket intermediary, I had the server tracking, assigning like integer IDs to connect events. And then everything upward from Elm was able to use that to do the rest of the connection tracking in terms of player assignment and stuff. So I might be able to continue passing WebSocket objects in. Although that would mean that Elm would end up holding on to them. And you can have things like the time travel debugger where the WebSocket, yeah, that would have a stateful object in the Elm data. As handy as that would be for closing and stuff, that seems problematic. Well, I mean, even if I have a mapping of like WebSocket to number, those numbers are still going to be invalid from run to run. I guess that's where the address is handy, but one of the big things that bugged me about the old 8.18 WebSocket library was I think it just used address as a key. So if you like ever connected to the wrong address and like weren't and like did not like completely reload the page, it would just keep retrying and retrying and retrying and retrying to connect. So one thing I want is some ability to cancel or control retries or something. Then there's the question of, do you allow multiple connections to the same WebSocket server? Which isn't something I need here. All right, so passing in actual WebSocket objects. Could end up trying to call methods on invalid objects, so that seems bad. So we would need a WebSocket mapping so that we could get like ID numbers. Yeah, I think that's what I would have had to do. Oh, I know what I did. I kept track of all the connections. Is an array. And we got a next ID. So connections.push websocket ws.id equals next ID. Then for things like open and close, would actually send ws.id. Now we need so that is a connection, an error on this socket. Does error mean it closed? Well, we should probably get a closed event if it closed, right? On error. Wow, okay, that's... Yeah, this is like down in the weeds stuff. Fail the WebSocket. Error in the WebSocket object. Oh, it closed. Okay, if it has an error, sent an error. It wasn't terribly enlightening. But we have to do, if we're going to do this, the whole single port thing people keep recommending, we're going to have something to do like, well, event is bad because event is the data, potentially. Send, type is an Elm keyword. Kind, error, ID, ws.id. And Elm can't, well, if we get into decoding, maybe you could do something with it. Do I want a generic thing here? Maybe not. All right, so this would be kind open, which has no other data. Close, which has no other data. And then message, which has an event. We can probably I guess we do that for now, even though we can't really see into it. Close should... You know what? I didn't track connections here. Oh, but Elm is going to reference... If Elm ever says, like, close a connection, we still have to know who to send that to. And then there's the whole, if we do a send API thing. But close should mean we're done. I'm not sure I trust a for each for modifying the array. If no, this has to actually be, because we're modifying an array. Var I equals 0, I less than connections.length, I plus plus. If connections sub I, and this doesn't actually need to worry about numbers, equals WebSocket, then see now connections. We're not doing any sort of, I don't think we're doing any sort of index equals array thing. So we would want to, and this is where I've gotten rusty on JavaScript. I think there's like a slice or splice. Index. Oh, I could just ask index of that object. Since the JavaScript has the actual reference. If index so that'll clean that up. And we might actually be able to debug the JSONs. They're only dealing with values in Elmland. A little bit. Probably going to want this up here. Looks like internals. So if it's just a value, debug will refuse to print it. Let's see. Port socket. This is probably going to be tight enough. I could go ahead and put the decoders in here. And then just do that. So then this gets complicated. So we would have, say, connect currently equals WebSocket connect, which means it's going to have the same signature. But this will be sort of our frontline API. And receive. Well, we're still not sure what that's going to do. It will be something. But we got our ports. We need to do JSON decoding. You persist, because I usually do this in the decode module just to isolate all the decoder stuff. So this would be, I guess we call that an event, a message instead of an event. Index, so just to keep it confusing myself in the future. Well, that's kind of not the message itself. So we have the event decoder. I don't know if that's going to be right. Because that means we're going to have a type or type alias. We could do type event equals error ID or open ID or close ID or message ID value. I guess error could be some sort of value as well. At the very, very basic level. That repeats ID a lot. But the alternate would be, well, that could be the event type. And then what we map it to is something like message. Oh, could it be a multi-value function? The port has to be a single value. And I guess we should probably have ID. I mean, it could really be an opaque value, but it could be the WebSocket if I checked for the existence of it to make sure it's still a valid thing. But that would still have like JavaScript objects in our data, so it's a little funny. So you would need to be able to talk about IDs and events. So decoder of event. Oh, so it's not decoder of event then. Or can we say decoder of ID event? If I took that and mapped it back to, oops, to the WebSocket thing later. We do not have, that would be a map to of, no, it's not a list. What is the tuple join operator now? Because didn't they? Well, they took out user things. You might still be able to do that. And then, it's an alias, so it might be okay. And then int and, well, no, not just int. Field ID int and because we got all the stuff that makes the event object. So I guess I could just indent there. Decoder event. What is this? How does this map work? Oh, this is like an and then type of thing where we do field kind string, and then it's something like this would be implicitly JSON decode and then. So look up that value and then do function of kind to case kind of error to map error to field error. It's the value for now. That's actually sort of what message will look like for the time being. And then we have open, which is just, is it success or succeed? Oh, maybe I could do one of also to keep trying to decode a tag and then and all of its fields. Succeed. Succeed open. Succeed close. All right, now Elm should have some pointed words about this, some of which are things we haven't completed doing yet. Right, like writing this method. So it's going to be a tagger. So we want to take our port, WebSocket receive, WebSocket receive. So that is going to give us a sub to the value. We might actually be. I did something like this before. That took a decoder and a tagger. So the raw event, taking a tagger that does all the stuff to it. So we have the decode loaded. So that was a maybe. So that is... That was mapping that down to... Oh, so that was capturing... Ooh. So do I... How do I propagate decode errors? So I wanted that to be just a message that had ID event. But it's actually like a result of that thing. And we might very well, we can map those to a debug log for now. Do we still want, if we're doing that, we probably want something like that. Which takes a, do we know what's a decoder of event? That's a maybe. This has to return an event. I guess it would be an error, and maybe because you provide better errors. All right, so that was from a maybe. So we have decoder. Well, maybe this is just for the mapping. Decode. Is it decode value or decode? Decode value, which takes the decoder, and so mainly I'm cleaning up the errors here, or the results. And maybe this eventually takes a decoder to do the detailed stuff. We'll see. And the value. And that gives us a result. Result dot, was it just a map error? WebSocket decode error. And then that's mapping it to that value, and then result, and then map no. Oh, does map not have a with default? Or result not have a with the default? Map the value to a result, and then to a result. There is a with default. Which would be an error. Well, it's a value. No, because it's still a result. A map is still a result. We would have to go to a... No, we can map to error. And then do a result dot with, or actually does result dot map error. No, that's not actually transforming it. With default error. How do you, oh, JSON.encode. Type value, can do strings, can do, I mean, ideally it'd be something else, but. So that will have to be cleaned up. Oh, and in fact, this is not a thing. How does one make a tuple from pair? I thought that syntax had been removed. Oh, right, we have to be exhaustive. So, because that's a string tag. Mm, we'll do this for now. We should probably try and provide something more useful there. We need better error handling in general. Oh, no, I have to actually... So that would become a succeed then, because we're not pulling any fields out. How are we still getting this wrong? Parsing, oh, because we were in a lambda. Name of, oh, new. But value is also in scope from the decoder. I think. Yeah. Such descriptive names. Okay. Is that totally not imported? Well, if it's not, if you have to do that, it's probably not imported. JSON didn't go. Yeah, just actually type it in code. Argument is a unit value. WebSocket receive. Oh, I never. Right, so we're trying to do this. So decode receive of. Decoder, which we're not passing a decoder here, to tagger. Expects result error value. Result error event. Wait, no. Actually, this probably is event. No, wait, decode receive. Yeah, we're not passing decoder here. You're just always event. So then what the heck are we doing to this? We have to map that to something. Right? Oh no, to ID event at that. Oh, and then somewhere we have to pull that out and break it into the other format. So that does not... yeah, that's only going to apply one argument. How do we actually map this, though? Well, no, with default should leave it as that. That should clear the current error. And then... error needs the first argument to be a value. Decode.null. Result error ID event is piping the function that expects. Right. That is a little bit of a problem with that. Body is ID event on decode receive. Indeed. And then we're going to do that type mismatch. So now this is awkward because this is a function or a tagging function that we have to pass in here. So it has to be a function that takes the value. This takes the value, so that's fine. And then goes to ID event and applies those to ID event. Event. Of type. ID unknown, unknown, unknown to known, known, blah, blah, blah. Right. So I left holes in here. WebSocket connect variable. Oh, right, because I redid my interface. And then WebSocket test can now receive back a these names are too generic. You can't expect anyone to import them as is. And if you want a shorthand name, you can make a shorthand name. But I know one of my other apps actually does use event for something as well. this would probably be like, well, I guess if you leave it as websocket.event, it's clear enough. For that matter, you could do portsocket.id. Which might actually be the best way to do that. And then this needs to be ID. We should have event as a name here. And I'm not as concerned about the I want to make sure IDs are working. All right, so we've got it to compile. Running is always the adventure. Array is not defined. Index.html. So this would be our connections list. Which seems we seem to have typoed here. Oh, it was from example code. Wait, how? Connections the indiv. Oop, not new tab. Okay, no JavaScript errors. Field ID, it's an object within a field of kind. So I need to get into... And the problem is that what we've seen so far with this version of Elm is that it's a jerk. And debug.log will not print out internal values. So sticking a debug.log got on here will not give us anything useful. And this looks like on decoding the open event. So let's index, turn off messages for now because they're just going to spam us. Actually, they're going to spam us here as well. Field ID. Expecting an object with a field named kind. And yes, well, Elm is being extraordinarily unhelpful right now. Well, we're getting this on... So apparently we're getting closed messages from the previous page, which, I mean, it makes sense that we get closed. Got internals, decode. We can print out what we think we're sending. That's all we can do. Object. This is actually from the previous page. Okay, kind ID. Got we can't see. Expecting an object with a field named kind. Okay. Oh, no, that was the send. So value. We take a... We take what we got, which would be value into this whole function chain. We log that it's in internals. And we attempt to decode into it. And unfortunately, to get anything else out of this, I would have to like redo all the downstream types. Well, maybe we can do something like go to string bool int dict. But it's a dict of what? That takes another decoder. That takes a decoder of a type. Could we do... key value pairs with value. And say, and then, I don't care. Just to be clear about that and how this is all hanging together elsewise. Yes. Oh, but we need to actually do to take that value and x and do a let law equal to bug.log x in new string. All right, what keys does Elm think it's getting? Oh, I'm doing, wait. Oh, okay. So we're looking for the second, and that's not. Still failing on field ID. Oh, no, okay, this is the previous code. Kind ID. Oh. Okay, so that was just me being stupid. And then see, that was from... So God is useless. That was from index, where we were putting out what we thought we were sending. Yeah, so apparently the log clear happens before the page reset, and then we get some closing events in the previous code. Okay, so this is... I probably need to get clearer about... What did we... where everything's coming from. Okay, JS WebSocket opened. We got a WebSocket, and we got our two fields. So we confirmed that there is in fact a connection 0. We're not actually being too fairly fancy with connections in this app, but some ability to actually do connection management is something I missed in the previous. Where is message? Oh, because this wasn't commented at the time. So we're getting that from there. We're getting this from here. Because it's still an internal thing. And the question is, should the WebSocket library pull out the data for you? I guess version 1 probably should, because we have no actual use case for doing more than that. And this is JavaScript, so the only thing I think useful right now is the data. Now it's still going to show up as an internal, I think. Yeah. So we're going to have to decode it with no visibility into the object from Elmland. But now that okay, so we're at the point where we could do potentially decoding, but that decoding is not actually of interest to me. It is other decoding that's of interest to me. OBS WebSockets is just a convenient WebSockets server to hit without bothering Twitch while we do dangerous things. Hopefully I don't crash OBS, but it's been relatively good so far. Okay, so every time we reload the page, we make a connection. This app doesn't really need connection tracking. We have no reconnect support at all, but some applications care about when you're connected or disconnected. Oh. Yeah, we could conceivably reconnect and then reuse the old ID. That's an intriguing possibility. I would have to keep track of that information somewhere, though. No. If the application wants consistency there, it can do its own thing. The amount of magic in the old WebSockets library is one of the things that bothered me about it. And then it's just going to be a balance between how much we do in the port module and how much we do in the application. So I could actually just start doing my stuff with the actual Twitch chat, and then maybe I can come back here if I need to be messing with like reconnect or anything. Okay. So the messages from Elm are actually not terribly useful here. The event is completely opaque. Other than that's a message. The ID we could live without. The JS messages are perhaps useful for debugging here. Oh, we are going to have to be able to send stuff, even though I can't test that much. I mean, we can watch OBS WebSocket complain, maybe. Port socket. So that application never needed to send. We actually probably want a more gentle introduction to WebSockets. This writing WebSocket client applications. Sending data, just socket.send. So we probably would have something like that. This will probably be easier here. We'll keep a front on this. So you're going to need to be ID string command message. This is probably just going to be web. Well, not WebSocket send. We're going to have to reformat this a little bit. Because I think you only take a single value. ID data. And we could still be lazy and rely on some of Elm's internal mapping here. Maybe. So WebSocket. Oh, assuming you can send complex values at all. Okay, well, Elm will compile with that. We have to see how that comes out on the other end. app.ports, WebSocket connect subscribe, app.ports.websocket send.subscribe. Function, and the first question is, what the heck do we get if we should probably say what we're doing. I can do this all at once, right? And then stream init. Oh, we actually need to wait for an open message before we can successfully send that. Open ID. And our command is port socket.send ID high. Oh, port socket.open. Right. In order for you to be able to understand our messages, we have to expose them. Oh, did I not? Oh, right, because the ID is implicit in all that stuff. Or in all of the messages. Expose a send. Send arguments. So 0, so we got an array with the 2 bits. Which I think is all you can really do with a, short of making an object out of it. Okay, so we get an args, essentially. And var ID equals args sub 0, and var data equals args sub 1. So we need to, and this is where we're using IDs. Well, if I use numeric IDs, it's going to be kind of array-like anyway. Connections dot really if it shouldn't be duplicated. If ws dot id equals our ID, then we want to ws dot send data. I did no immediate error, invalid JSON payload. Okay, so we successfully sent something. We are a userland application. So the fact that it's a command message means nothing. We can't actually attach a message to it. Not this is an actual message back on the protocol. Error invalid JSON protocol, or JSON payload. And we'd have to have a decoder for that. Man. If you... Well, no, I guess if you were doing WebSockets, the data is actually a string. Oh, so actually, message should be a string. Now error. And will that go all the way through? No. Decoder value, decoder string. Oh, right. No, wait, this is the entire message. That is... No, that's data. I'm getting myself confused here. Oh, I have not gone... No, I did go into there. But it was just field message, blah, blah, blah. So that will compile. I don't know if it'll actually give us something. Aha! Okay. Message, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so ignoring all the rest of that stuff, we can actually get the string value. And then that actually kind of gives us a useful error message. So with that, we should not need JS message. We're getting... We shouldn't need any of these, hopefully. Maybe the error messages we don't have a lot of transparency into from Elmland. And then we're just getting the tick from OBS right now, which I didn't want. That's not really this app's purpose to decode that. All right, so we've got a message. We can actually read it and interpret what happened. We've got a send. Do I only have the two terminals right now? All right, so this should all be... Okay, that's all the index stuff. That is the test stuff. And we also have... our baby module, baby port module. I mean, I expect this to get built out a lot as we need features. We probably want to have some facilities for like closing connections, for reconnection, but I mostly want to do that in a more organic fashion. Well, I guess the only awkward thing is, as this gets more complicated, I'm going to need to like unwire my real stuff. Reconnections might require state. And the question is, do you have the state in the port module or in the application? Okay. Very rough WebSocket port module. And then we go back to the Twitch docs and try to figure out how to connect to a chat server. However, I am going to take a short break and be back in a few minutes. Relatively unmolested there. And a crouch fish dies for no reason somewhere. Both. Okay, so you were like, hey, it's a new update, I should finally get into it.
Do exactly as she says. Milton, oh my God. Oh my God. Wow, thank you so much, Milton. Oh my God. I'm like awestruck. What? Wow, guys, if you don't know Milton Peak, so I'm flabbergasted.
A little bit here.
Welcome back. All right, so now, what can we clean up? I might want to reference those. I had you up just to get my connection parameters. That's general port stuff, which I think we've mostly got now. That's some WebSocket stuff. That's some JavaScript stuff. This is some basic Elm reference we might need. So chat docs, and I might end up looking at some TMI.js stuff as well. Would this be the appropriate entry point? Yeah, this is some stuff I was looking at before. And unfortunately, my window's small enough to put us into mobile mode here. This is going to be all TMI.js. So the first step is just going to be connecting. That might be built into TMI.js. And disconnect handler. Okay. This is, okay. WebSocket clients. So that's what we need to connect to, and we don't know how else it's going to go. Oh, we should probably take out a little hi, huh? Except maybe see an error message. Init. Okay, connect is fine. Where did I... Ah, because you have to do this on open. Maybe it would be useful to have like a maybe string on the connect for initial data. But then I'd have to have some place to keep that, so not quite yet. But this is... not what we want to do just yet. This will eventually be where we log in. Our address, and that was one of the weird things about yeah, I'm eventually going to have to send the connection address with like at least open to establish identity mapping to what? Localhost. Yep. Okay, change in. irc ws.chat.twitch.tv. So the first check is what happens? Open. WebSocket. What? What? Oh, no, app.ports. But we sent a message and got an error back. What? Oh, it's undefined because we never called it. And not hooking up a port actually makes it undefined. That's an interesting little feature of the optimization system. We might as well indent everything now. Okay, WebSocket open. Nothing happens until you send a message, apparently. So this is where I actually need to switch this over to my other window where I had logged in with a bot account. I mean, sure, we'll want to pull that eventually, but... so I'm just going to log in off screen first time here. I mean, it's just my bot, but... Okay. Or just my bot account. All right, so now the application should have the OAuth token. And I still have to clean up some of this login, logout stuff, but we should have something to send. All right, so reference. Oh, and I guess there's no point in me making a connection until I have authentication, huh? So next thing I want to do, right, because authentication token actually comes in here. Fetch self. Okay, this no ops if we don't have authentication. Well, this is a strict if. Mauth not equal to nothing, then else command dot none. So that means this page should not connect, and this page should. Okay. Authenticate. So password first, and this gets us back to our open. And this is just a straight up two, but it is two messages. And we actually, oh, well, these are pretty straightforward. We'll have to get into some, this isn't JSON encoding decoding. Let's also update this. WebSocket ports and Twitch chat. So this is just going to be, can I just queue these up? And yeah, we have no like reconnection or anything right now. Port socket.send. And this will probably need to be abstracted somewhere, but pass OAuth. If we're open, which we should only really do if we've got a token. But we need to be in a context where we have this. Case model dot auth. Well, I guess I could map this. Maybe dot map model. No, model auth is model dot auth. Maybe dot map. From auth pass OAuth plus auth port socket dot send that's also a maybe. So that's like a maybe two. Is there a maybe met two? I guess I could do a multi-part switch, because that does become a little bit more interesting Well, we're only interested in the 2 case, so. Oh, and I still have to handle default. But maybe A, maybe B, this format doesn't work so nice anymore. Auth, login. Nick. So maybe .map 2 over model.auth and model.auth login. And then maybe dot with default and then you are covering up my compiler. Oh, how does it pass these? Oh, right, it's just, if it's 2 arguments, it's no comma. Oh, nope. Wrong pair. You need a closing paren. Improperly formatted auth. Improperly formatted. Well, thankfully these tokens can be somewhat expired here. So path OAuth. To which OAuth token? Maybe this is sending too much at once. We should probably check that out. This needs to be somewhere we can hit it. Okay, that is not improperly formatted OAuth. So is that... I need to know more about how IRC works. This might be something we could look at tmi.js for as well. Oh, that's right. So really, actually, we want to peek at the source code. Is this a single file? It is not a single file. Eh. Oh. Oh, and then this is going to kind of end up with the default path, so hopefully that's okay. So lib commands. So ultimately, we need a WebSocket send. Send command. Send command. Oh, is this defined elsewhere? Yeah, was there like a client? Send command. Promise. Make sure socket is open. This is the kind of stuff when we have to get into. Executing command. Oh, this is like command. But it's just wsocket.send. Well, how do they do login then? Pass nick. WSocket send. Username 8-star username. Oh, user. Is this designed? Okay, yeah, OAuth. Oh no, that's for an actual regular request. Ops identity password. Oh, is this not using OAuth login? Password replace OAuth with nothing. Oh, okay, so password is that. Ops identity. Ops, or I'm really interested in identity. Ops.identity. Username, password. Client ops. So this is going to come down to documentation. Okay. URL. OAuth token equals. Okay, got our client ID. Client.api. Oh, that's just, oh, just a straight up request, huh? Configuration. Client ID debug. Connection. Server port reconnect. Identity. Username. Oh, is this the log? Ah. Generate an OAuth token. So we should probably just see how, we need to see how this is formatted for comparison. I think it's that, but I need to make sure. I'm going to do this in this browser. Just in case. And that's requesting a whole bunch of rights. Ooh, which maybe I need to request more rights. Okay, so that is just an OAuth token, which doesn't look too terribly different from my other OAuth token. So I might need to revisit how I'm actually requesting this, which is going to be the redirect authorize. So they requested a whole bunch of rights there. Yeah, there's TMI. Authorized through our API. Chat read scope. which is really all I need for this application, but I have to figure out how authorization works a little bit again. Apps and authentication, scopes. Scope, so that would be chat read. Scope name, Twitch v5 API, chats and pub sub, chat read. Okay, so that means we need to go back to here. Do that, log out. Oh, yeah, I need to work on some more of that stuff. Well, partially that means that logout has to actually update the client state and we'll be fine. User self, this will be UI. Oh, because that just ends up being a straight up navigate. I was counting on straight up navigate before. So I should probably implement the proper logout since we don't get straight up navigation. And then this. Yeah, that's fine. View stream chat and room messages. Comes back here. We have a WebSocket open. It's not an authentication failure yet. It was when we also did this, and it seems to be that doing separate sends is fine. Improperly formatted auth. Well, I'm going to have to look at that then. Well, actually, we can probably look at it here. IRC. So it knows that's open. It's got headers. No, that's a get. WebSocket. Does Firefox not allow you to inspect WebSockets? Well, I can do some degree of debugging myself. Console.log, ID data. Oh, so it is reversing the order. Thanks, Elm. I don't know if that matters, but... Oh, and they close it. So that's where we might need to do some reconnects. Well, I don't want to be reconnecting and failing just yet. We do have to be somewhat mindful of that. Stream credits. Aha! It does matter. So I get no response to that. I could just put a time delay on here, I guess. Actually, you can set them up as... you can get... Right now, all I know is people who are hosting. I don't know anything about which of those might have been bigger hosts or raids. Which, for the larger ones, they will post chat notifications. And in theory, I could add subscribers and bits if those ever become relevant to me. So let's turn that off. Yep, and that's Elm format. Welcome, your host. This does not display nicely at all. Don't know what the numbers mean. Some kind of sequence number, I guess. Okay. And then, presumably, and of course I happen to... Okay, so that does not... Oh, right, I have to join rooms. IRC guide. Oh, reply with Pong. Okay, so that's... Oh, okay, so they're actually... Okay. So that's something we have to be prepared for. So that's actually kind of the part of the first step here. So the awkward thing is I already had a... Well, I had a TMI decode. So we should probably try to wrap some of this. Well, we'll start with functions here and pull it out to figure out what the heck we're doing. So we can probably expect a ping at some point. I guess the opcodes are to streamline computer interactions with this stuff. All right, to ensure your... And for... Well, okay, so just all welcome messages. So we have to have... Yeah, I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. So in open, no, we're going to need stream credits. Let's look at .open. So this is like everything else right now. And eventually we'll want to, know if we're connected. I probably do need to start breaking these out, though. So we've got error. Well, error is just a value. Not a whole heck of a lot I can do with it at this point. Ah. Yeah, and then we can actually see if we got a response. That's might be useful. And close. So open, I'll start with you. And then error is a value. And that, going by my there, is up there. Okay, so the message is, in fact, literally that. So we'll probably get disconnected soon. But we know that we have a message. Oh, no, that was... Okay, yeah, that was message... And we need message, and error value. Message. So as a first proof of concept, we can do case message. We should really have some sort of decoding here. Rn Teamy. And everything else is just going to be that. It might be where I want to do the print as well. Should be a little more like this. We can compress it down to a single command. Send pong tmi.twitch.tv. This also suggests that I should be sending the carriage returns. Possibly in this as well. Oh, actually, here's a test for that. No, I went to the README of it. Client. No, does not seem to be required. Pong tmi.twitch. That is a little bit of a waiting game to see if that goes. We could... Lost that. We can let ourselves know that we are going to send Pong. Oh, right. We need to do port socket. I did not end up quite working from my working example here. Hmm? So does it consider us still connected? No, it does not consider us still connected. Oh, nope, there we go. All right, so that's something we'll just have to see sometime when we're a little bit idle. Okay, ping and pong. Command message. We should be sending... technically, we're sending pongs and some joins. Trusted not to run rampant. Well, maybe we need to see a little bit more activity for that. A 421 command. Okay. IRC generic capabilities. Join a channel, depart from a channel, send a message to a channel. I should probably, like as you were saying, wait for some kind of acknowledgement of connection. Which will get into parsing actual messages. So let us checkpoint the fact that we connected and can probably ping pong. Oh, right. We had to run into the if it isn't hooked up problem, which it is now. Basic Twitch chat connection. So we can pretty much assume we're going to be doing a fair amount of message parsing. So let us start setting up. I don't know if I want to actually put this into the Twitch library later. There may be a separate library or something, but for now we'll kind of follow a similar format. Control Shift N. Speaking of similar format, what did I do in Twitch Lab? Documents, Elm Twitch API. It was Twitch, lowercase TMI. That is the kind of the Elm way. And then this is going to be like success. Oh, we keep changing the directory structure. So before I had TMI decode for JSON messages, this isn't really going to be quite the same, assuming these ever end up in the same namespace. This is going to be more like, I don't know, it's just chat for now. Module twitch.tmi.chat exposing we don't know what yet. And we want to be able to parse our join message. They've actually got a sample of this here. It should be... do we have... No, they got the direction arrows on there. So we think we sent a Pong. All right, so sample connection message. We lost our trailing quote here. And this is something I could potentially do like more of a test suite style thing on like samples and what we expect to receive. We can do a little bit with this, but when I start getting into other stuff, I might actually want to start playing around with the test framework. Actually, the parsing here might get hairy enough to be a project for tomorrow anyway. Because this is not JSON. This is going to be straight up parsing. And Elm parser tends to be a bit of a bear. Maybe this is more amenable to parsing than some of the other stuff I've done. Elm.json. We currently have parser as an indirect dependency. Import parser. I had one particular module in Twitch chat before, which I've not actually opened, which was this. And I did just kind of import everything. Parser.advanced is for returning error messages. Maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves. What do we need char for? Char.isDigit. Which we might actually need. All right, so that was parsing some kind of tricksy stuff. So providing context, saying what we're expecting. Okay, so we have like source server. Oh, we have lines. So how do we repeat? Well, that's given a parser, which happens to be doing no, because that's what a character. Run. Oh, it contains a list. You might get a dead end. Unexpected comma. Ah. In context, token. Float number symbol pipeline. That's for a line. Branches one of token loops. Custom type and the problem for when something's not found. They can loop indefinitely. Repeated structures like a bunch of statements. So a message. And this is what, so what kind of things are we doing here? We have our duration, which is a type alias message parser. Why is this of a... Oh, because I don't have state here. Is a message parser. Ah, that's the general type. Duration is a message parser of int. And because maybe so you could do... Because it didn't need to specify that in the type. Of a unknown type, which I'm sure they'll make the parser very happy. the Elm parser rather. In context, parsing an IRC message. So an int and some other stuff. No, function. And so that's doing a scale on this. So we think we want to loop over does that mean... Well, this is the potentially exported type. Down seems to probably just use parser or blah, 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 blah. Loop takes a state. Right. But this is parser of that thing. So message parser probably actually is not a string. It's more like a list, well, list message probably is where we're going to end up at. Well, let's start with list of string. Let's try and just break this up. Loop with a state and a state to parser. Statements. So this is messages, and this is a message. And message is a parser, which is an advanced parser of string to string. And this is what we were parsing, right? Oh no, actually this might be, what are the formal names of these? Context. So yeah, context is the string, that's fine. Problem, and the value of this is a list of string for now. This is a context problem single string. In context, parser. Parsing a batch of parsing an IRC message. And can we just, well, we want to identify a string. Oh, they do have a statement here. Yeah, so then terminator. List.reverse statements. Oh, the state is loop or done. Is the state the same here? Oh no, it's step. But the state is implicitly a step, I guess? Start, separator, and end. Parser.sequence. Lists and records. Ah, so yeah, start and end. Starting the starting symbol, open close symbol, spaces. Positions, get source. Variable symbol, keyword, number. This is very focused around language stuff. Int, float, number, symbol, keyword, variable, end. Succeed, lazy, and then problem. So we want provide a token. Chomp until end or map chomped string. Chomp until end or... Well, this is a chart of bool. Chomp until end or... Parse. No, that's a string. Spaces. Chomp until string. Multi-line comment. I mean, this seems to be sending new lines all the time, but chomp until end or and then what do we do? So an Elm comment. This is ignore this stuff. Ooh, but that's a combinator of multiple things. Get chomped string, parser A to parser string. So does that mean we would do get chomped string? Right, we have not imported this module, so it's not trying to compile it. Funny how that works. Port sockets view twitch.tmi.chat, which we still have to fix up a bunch of stuff. We're not exposing anything. It's messages and message parser? Or do we not need to expose that? Not directly. So we've got our own int. We've got... dead ends to string is a debugging function. Oop, no, that is my function. Context to string. Which I have to remember how to use. Some messages, and then we got all the compiler complaints here. Right, so we were working on that. Was this the next group? You cannot mix blah, 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 blah. Indeed. The easiest fix for that is to... Which makes me wonder if I should put in context at the end of my chains. Loop message. That loop needs the second argument to be a list of B to a parser step. Oh, that's right. We have the loop has to be a step thing. Statements help has to be a loop or a... Oh, it's a one of. And that's where the helper comes in, because this parses a message. Well, a message and the terminators. but it maps to succeed with this function and one of succeed with this parser or we're done. So it actually is a sort of helper. So we're doing strings at the moment. A parser of step list string. This is not the advanced parser. Oh, step has two things. And probably so context problem item. Message step. Oh. Oh, you actually get called with, okay, with the list. Which is why you do the done thing. And I'm not sure I'm that picky about the order, but succeed. Loop. With, it's really message because it's just don't have any syntax to recognize yet. Succeed with nothing. Nothing. Wouldn't this be? Well, no, because we are waiting to call the function. And this is message step. Okay, closing paren. Yes. Okay, we compiled. Nope. You. Okay, so we seem to be ping-ponging successfully. Oh, I'm not actually calling this. Stream credits. Twitch.tmi.chat as chat for now. Message. So right now we're doing nothing with, well, we're always printing it. So we know that one. Maybe we can get into parsing that later. Bug.log. Parse. And then duration. gets used in like one of our decoders. Duration decoder int parser.run parser.advanced as parser. And this is maybe something that we should be exporting from there as a utility method, but for now. Parser.run chat.messages on. We actually have to capture this. We've got message. Okay, still compiles. Okay, and this is where I have to figure out how to use dead ends, apparently. Uh-oh. Okay, that appears to be an infinite loop. So they're looking for an actual terminator, apparently. And they don't recognize end of file? Is what I'm taking from this? The problem is there's no way to get, like, in to this. Now, before we did have this taking... Maybe it doesn't chomp this? Are these strings or characters or tokens? All right, I'm done with you, done with you, done with you for now. We need loop. We need the loop example. Spaces. So ignore anything. So symbol. So the easiest thing is, well, white space. Oh, 0 or more of any of those. Okay, compiles. I just have too many windows right now. And since I don't really have any control of this thing, well, I guess I could put a debug log in the loop, maybe. Since we are in theory running code, debug.log loop m. Okay, loop, 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 and then nothing. It might not get to slowing down because it's looping back to the browser here. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the start is good. We don't have a termination condition, apparently. Because this goes till... Maybe I shouldn't say until end? So that it fails? And then what is the proper version of this without the chomp and tell? Chomp and tell. What? Oh. This one takes a string. And chomp and tell and or takes a string. And then we get tokens. Type token. And this provides our problem. Looking for end of line. Aha! Par is okay. We got all of our lines. And presumably we'll just get pars not okay if this doesn't work out. So we really want to turn this into... I don't know if TMI at twitch.tv is actually useful to us. But a basic pars would be like server... What'd you call that? Opcode. User... and then the message has a colon. And I guess this is supposed to be a cursor? All right, well, in the land of parsers, that is still a victory. Hit add source. I mean, yes. Yeah, and you end up using the dead end stuff. But when we run into more problems, that will probably come in handy. Because we can switch off the OK and provide useful feedback, hopefully. Parser that breaks lines in IRC chat responses. All right. I like... It's gonna take a while to get all of this worked out. And I like every other day or so to spend a little bit of time playing Stepmania so that I'm not just sitting around all day. So that is going to be it for the coding stream for now. You are quite welcome to hang out as I bounce around on a dance pad, but I understand the people here for coding might not be interested in that. I might, let's see, I can't really actually use the chat stuff right now. And I still have to fix that log out. But we can actually just run this here since we're here. So thanks for the hosts, although the stream over kind of gets in the way a little bit, but you can see him. Thanks for hanging out. I'm not going to recommend anybody to host since I'm going to be back in a minute. I could do the schedule. So yeah, I'll usually switch over sometime around now to Stepmania. Do that for a little bit. I'll come back for games in the afternoon. Currently, I'm trying to finish up the last island on Kingdom 2 Crowns. And then maybe after that, next week, I'll be trying out Shogun mode and see how that goes. But yeah, I'll be back in a little bit for Stepmania. I'm going to drop stream to change settings and then I'll be up on the title screen for a little bit just to get the mat set up and things. But bye for now.